And then kind of extending out, over the rest of this year. I mean, so for this quarter, I mean, yeah, we've probably seen or are already near the highs that we're going to see. But let me ask you this first, actually. So with Bitcoin coming down into the 30s again, and you were just talking about ETH, like getting to do or die time, which AKA could mean alts obviously rallying too. And we had somebody ask this in the chat a couple of weeks ago, and I want to see if you can kind of confirm where Ewok and I were on it. But if we see Bitcoin pull back in the mid to low 30s like that, does that necessarily mean that we see the altcoin index, like as a whole, pull back a percentage like that? Because it seems to me like there may be some strength in some of these after we've kind of had this leg up here. So yeah, what do you make of that, just as far as alts in general, and then maybe like Pulse obviously specifically too?
Dude, so it's going to get really hard to know specifically. Like I'd like to err on the side of caution that if BTC comes down hard enough, it will affect ETH and the alts. So that it'll immediately, with the surge and down in price on Bitcoin, everything's going to get a smack first. But then what happens in these later stages of the bull run is that they get up faster. So like, yeah, you might get, it might come into a situation where like everything gets hit immediately on a sell down, but then it just so happens that ETH will get up a little bit faster this time and it'll go a little bit harder. And the altcoins will get up even faster and go even a little bit harder. Because it's more like confidence building and there's more money pours into the space. And then specifically with like PulseChain and Hex and these tokens, like they're in a league of their own right now in terms of performance. They're not doing anything relative to like what the other part of the market is doing at all. Actually, we did a correlations matrix. Crispy Man from Hexfire.io was able to put together this really cool tool for us where we can actually go and look at all the assets and we can compare. And if you guys have any suggestions of things to look at, we could do that. Let's take a look at Pulse here because that's a favorite. Let's see here. Mm-hmm. Where is it at? Here it is. So if I click this, Pulse is obviously mostly correlated here with, I don't know, can you see my screen or is it tiny? Probably it's pretty small.
There you
small,
go.
That's
getting better. There you go.
So Pulse and PulseX, obviously the thickest liquidity is between these two coins. So they're going to move almost 100% positively correlated together. It's a 0.98. And then you can go down the list here and see, Inc. 0.9. So pretty correlated positively. Honestly, Hedron, Icosa, these ones we wanted to look at tonight, they're really tied. They're doing what Pulse and PulseX are doing, which is telling me that the market's not trading them. And they're just sitting idly by and going up and down with whatever the waves of the ocean are going to take them. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see that across all the markets. It's just not a whole lot going on. There's some big sells and a bunch of little buys, but it's all kind of balancing itself out. There's no big moves really, just kind of all moving together, and whatever one goes, everything else kind of gets pulled along with it for the ride. So
that's 100% true of like Pulse, PulseX, and Inc. They're so tied together that they're doing what Inc. is not going to go do anything on its own yet. It might later on, but right now it's not going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to look into these because, okay, so here's the hexes. They're kind of like pretty well tied in, like you're saying. They're doing whatever. They take turns kind of over and underperforming Pulse, right? That's what they are all doing effectively.
Right.
But when we look here at like, where's BTC on here? Negative 0.15.
Wow.
So we're doing the opposite of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up, we're going down on the average here, slightly. So I don't even know where's ETH on here. ETH is like a slight positive, but for all intents and purposes, it's almost inconsequential. And so we did some other stuff, like we threw on like the US dollar here. So when the dollar's negatively correlated to us, which that makes sense, right? Because when dollar goes up, crypto comes down, and vice versa. Dollar goes down, crypto goes up, risk goes on. See how PDI and Atropa are completely negatively correlated with Pulse? Do we remember back to in the summertime when we were down in the dumps here and Pulse wouldn't move at all, but PDI and Atropa started to really move during this period?
Yeah.
It seems as if the PDI and Atropa ecosystem is like a counter trade to what the core RH stuff does. based on this correlation data.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was doing over the summer too. I mean, like that's exactly what was going on. Everybody was getting into the Atropa stuff, and it was like, the narrative is like, well, Pulse isn't pumping because people are getting into that. And then the moment that PDI and all that stuff sold off big time, that's when we got that like epic 2x pump of PulseChain off the lows.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. So, in terms of like, I don't know what's going on with the broader space. The RH stuff is completely beating to its own drum and doing whatever it wants to do right now.